Welcome to our program tonight. My name is Doris Hanson, and I'm your host for the program. And now, let's get on to the subject of polygamy and our guest. I'd like to introduce our guest tonight, Rulon Sandoval.
Hi, Doris. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for coming. I know you're terribly busy, and you've taken time out from your schedule, and you have a fascinating story. I'm just really anxious to let you tell the viewers. When I first heard from you, and you told me that you were from a Mexican polygamist community, I was rather shocked, in fact rather shaken, because I thought that was a contradiction in terms. And we'll get on with that a little bit later as we ask the questions. So are you ready for further questions? Okay, I have quite a few here I wanted to ask you. First of all, would you tell us how you became associated with a polygamy group and which group it was?
Well, it was a gentleman called, his name was Margarito Bautista. He lived in Salt Lake City. He moved from Mexico to Salt Lake City. He was married and get a family in Salt Lake City. And he started to know more about, he was a member of the LDS Church, and he learned about the polygamous group in Salt Lake City, LDS Church.
And so you were named after?
Yes, after Rulon Allred.
Yeah, you don't very often hear a Mexican name of Rulon.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that in Mexico.
You can change
your name. It was a very weird name.
Well, tell us how you got out of the group and how you found God's true salvation plan.
They have the right to take your life. Things like that.
Yeah, they threaten you with that. That's true.
So
that's true.
That was so hard. Right now, I see that as a huge favor they did to me.
At the time, though,
I
you
just
probably didn't
thank
see it
God
that
for
way.
that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, it was so horrible. Exactly the day that it happened, I remember driving back home, and I just heard that voice thinking, just kill yourself.
You told me that the Mexican polygamous wives are terribly oppressed, and that part of it is the program, the way that they have set up for the Mexican plural wives. Would you want to go into a little more detail with that? 3
or 4 times a year, the leaders from Salt Lake, and they take a group of people. They take a group of men, they take a group of young people to those places in Mexico, and it's kind of a tradition. Then they go there and pick some Mexican girls and bring it over. And bring them over. Illegally? Illegally, most of the times, yeah. Okay. For that. Does that answer your question, John?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that'll be it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so they go down to Mexico and they recruit the people from America, from the Salt Lake City. They go down and they recruit Mexican girls into polygamy, and then they bring them over the border and bring them into the United States, and they're plural wives now at this point.
Yes.
And they're illegal aliens.
Yes, most of them, yeah.
A first wife wouldn't be an illegal alien, but any plural wife would be.
Yeah, you'll see that some of the men, then they go to Mexico, they already been married here. But so if they choose and pick another girl there, they need, they brought them across the border illegally, and because they already married, so they still illegal in the country. But if when they go over there, they're still single, then they get married, and then they bring them legally.
They'll bring one legally, but the rest, any plural marriage, any plural wives. And so they bring them illegally to the country, and they settle them in one of their groups here, one of their places where they're at. Where are they located, by the way, in the United States?
Most of them are here in Salt Lake, Montana.
Montana?
Montana, but the majority of Mexican people from this polygamy group is in Arizona. Tempe. Tempe? And Phoenix.
Tempe and Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. And what happened is that the girls, when those men from the polygamous group in Salt Lake or Utah go over there, they bring most of girls. They don't bring men or boys. They don't do that. But it's been a huge problem because in Mexico also the young people want to come to America and have a better life.
Sure.
So what happened is they need to come and they need to take their own risk, and they're going to try to cross the border illegally. And if they do that and they finally get in here, they just kind of reject it from the group and say, well, we didn't ask you to come, so you're on your own. So what they decide to do is just trying to send it back, but they refuse to go back. So they start to regroup in Arizona, and it's a big colony right now.
That's
in
too
Arizona.
bad. Well, and so a Mexican polygamous plural wife, she would be here illegally. She's breaking the law by living polygamy. She's probably oppressed in her home, being a plural wife, probably having children. She's trapped.
Very trapped. The thing is, then I saw cases where one girl who was in that exactly situation that you described was in a farm, far away, alone with her kids, and one of her kids get burned with hot water. I don't know exactly what happened, and she was so in panic. There was no way that she will get help because she didn't have a phone or anything else.
Oh my!
So she just get a neighbor, get the baby, drive to the hospital, but she wasn't able to communicate herself to explain what exactly happened.
She didn't know English.
Exactly. So then the kid get hurt really bad. So the police was involved, and because it was this lack of communication.
Yeah.
Now the husband disappeared. So she's
out. She's just
get
out.
all the problem and everything else. So basically, she was send it back to Mexico without her kids. 5 kids staying here, and the husband never show up.
And they do brainwash the women or the people in the group that you're not supposed to talk about what's going on in her. You're going to end up in hell. And so I don't know if she didn't feel like she could talk about the polygamy group or not, but that often is the case as well.
She was all confused, and then she goes back to Mexico, obviously.
No kids.
And her parents' eyes, she was guilty. So she was so depressed then that she tried to kill herself.
Oh my. Oh my.
They
need some hope, don't they? They really do. I would like to, we're about out of time, and just a minute left, so I thank you, Rulon, for coming.
Thank you.
We didn't get through the whole questions again, but we maybe can get you on again. Polygamy and turn to freedom in Christ tonight. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Good night.